Hi, welcome to Andrew Buckle bookshelf tour of Rebellion and Treasury of British comic books. Now, I haven't got all of the books from Rebellion. I've got quite a lot, but I haven't collected all of them. Some I had before and I've got rid of. So I'm just going to go through the ones I've got on my current bookshelf. I'll probably find some more later. It's always the way I put them in different piles, but generally I think most of them are in the pile that I'm going to go through. This one's the Trigan Empire, Volume 4. And it's very good, thoroughly enjoyable, but I wasn't so enamoured by the artwork, this one. Don Lawrence, some of the art, but it's also got some other artists, and it's a bit sort of blurry, actually, the result. I must admit, it just didn't read as good as the first volumes, but still, very enjoyable. Carl the Viking, now this has got Don Lawrence, and this one is in black and white, and it's from Lion. A whole variety of different comic books that came out, of course, in the 60s and 70s, as well as obviously earlier. And it's just great that Rebellion, Treasury of British Comics, are bringing out all these collections. Just absolutely love them. Brilliant, brilliant. Not every single page is pristine. Sometimes you look at it, but quite a lot of it is super sharp, really, really good quality. And I love them. So that one, Viking one, is great. I thoroughly enjoyed that story, I must admit. Steel Claw, very good as well. I think they've brought out another couple of volumes of this. I haven't bought them as yet. I will. Sometimes when I do, I leave them for a while. I think, oh, you know what? I get that, and I just build up. I think, oh, I must get that one, volume 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And I just buy them all. But this one, Steel Claw, Invisible Man, and Ken Bulmer. Very, very good story. And this is one from Pages of Valiant. Again, black and white. Though, I think just, sometimes they put colour in, not always, but generally it's black and white. Also, they have a little introduction. I wish they'd have a little bit more. I must admit, I would really appreciate more information. Maybe a really 3 or 4 page, 5 page essay would be great, along, of course, with the actual comic strips there, the Steel Claw. And it's superb, thoroughly enjoyable story. Completely daft, of course. Invisible guy, still got problems. He's still physical, so it's still... I don't know. I haven't bought this one. Got an advert at the back for The Vigilant. And apparently it's got a combination of all the superheroes. This came out in April 2021. I must admit, I didn't buy it. I haven't seen it. I didn't know, probably somehow passed by. But this, again, you've got the annuals as well, which is very nice. They include those as well occasionally. And then sometimes what happens when you get the annuals, they're slightly different artist or something. It just seems slightly different from the actual normal comic strip. But they're good. Invasion 1984. I love this one. This was absolutely brilliant. Piccadilly's a ring of fire. Nothing can stop them. London is doomed. Now, it does look pretty bad, of course. And, of course, it's slightly different from Piccadilly Circus now. Doesn't look like that at all. Of course, it's all digital screens. Just doesn't look as good now, I must admit. Every time I look up, I think, where's all those old... Well, for obvious reasons. But still, again, it's got an introduction. The Invasion 1984. But generally, I thought it was an absolutely crackingly good story. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Now, does it say which one? Now, I always wish... Yes, they do. Battle. Sometimes they do. I don't think they're always super consistent with that. And I'm going to say that, and it's probably not true. No, some don't have it. They don't. Some they put there, you've got Battle. So it tells you that... I wish they'd put that with all of them. Obviously, the title, great. Obviously, the artist, writer, etc., always great. And, of course, Rebellion. But it would be nice if they included the details of the original comic. Though, of course, sometimes it might have been spread over 4 or 5 comics, so you can never tell. Obviously, then it'd be just put the main one. And this one, of course, is Lion, the Spiders Syndicate of Crime. That was good. Jerry Siegel. Obviously, Superman. Not Spider-Man, that would have been Steve Ditko. Now, that would have been brilliant. Why didn't we have Steve Ditko doing some comic books in the UK? That would have been great. But Spider and the Dr. Mysterious. Some of the titles were really great. Mysterious, yeah. The Return of the Spider. I always loved those ones. Actually, that was always sometimes my favourite bits when they have that. And they would always have a little blurb along the top. Just great. And also they would turn around and say at the bottom what was going to happen. The gangland leaders next Monday. So you obviously couldn't wait to get the next issue. And there's the Spider back. The Mirror Man. The Fiendish Genius, etc., etc. All good stuff. Ken Reid, I love football ones. I used to get all of the sort of Score and Roar and those sort of things. I just thoroughly enjoyed those. Not so obsessed about football now, but when I was a kid, I just loved everything. I was always supporting Manchester United. Oh, well, what can you say? They do well, most of the time. Not at the moment, unfortunately. But anyway, this one's got some great little stories. The Sub. And it's a mix, so it's a real sort of, you've got football forum, so you've got some great little stories, and they just capture that period. It's just great fun all the way through it. Obviously, it's nothing like real football in any shape. Manager Matt and things. I mean, just love it. Absolutely great. And this one is called Scorch and Score. But they kept on changing. I don't know. I lost track after a while. That was the trouble with British comics. They always kept on being sort of incorporated. Great news! Or wonderful news or something. And your heart would always sink at that point. Always did. You always knew that's it. Half a dozen of your favourite stories, gone. And you never think, well, did they ever finish them off? And then quite often you find out they've been continued on in Holland or something for the next 50 years or something. You think, what? I think Billy Boots or something, like 5 million copies of Billy's Boots. But over here, I lost track. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was great. Volume 2, 13th Floor. This is a real enjoyable story. This is so daft. It's unbelievable. It's a supercomputer that basically hypnotises people and do various things. And they sort of go into this weird fantasy thing. They go complete... Anyway, it's just absolutely... And everyone sort of pays the price of things. The computer decides. So you've got certain characters come into the place, and they could be anyone. And then, or even policemen, anyone. It just decides, MI5 or whatever. It will zap people. And you think, really? And of course, every time they resolve it, it moves different places as well, different locations. They move it, and then of course comes back again. You can never get rid of a good story in that case. Now this one I haven't read yet. I'm saying it's great. The Jinty one. I love these stories. Jinty. I wish they'd bring out more of these Jinty ones. There were some great stories in Jinty, but there were millions of stories in Jinty. They produced loads, and they always generally were quite often miserable. They always had stories like set in Victorian time or something, or someone who would be an evil gran or something that would be torturing. Would they do that in comics nowadays? No, that would just not. Virtually everyone would be under, what's the name for that? But still, Carrie lives a charmed life because unbeknownst classmates, she's a witch in this case. But the weird thing quite often with these is that, and you get this book, and they have another story, Creepy Crawly, which they hardly mention. It's not on the front, but the artwork is absolutely first rate. You just love it. Spell of Trouble. Really good stories. I always put this in the Rebellion Treasury of British Comics, but it's not really. It's a 2000 AD one. There's also, of course, a crossover between the two. I love these stories. Strontium Dog was always one of my favourites. Really great. Classic tales. And again, unfortunately, of course, you've got some colour in it, but most of it is in black and white. But just brilliant, brilliant artwork. I just loved Strontium Dog's artwork. But there are, like I say, it's a colour story. There's a few colour stories in it. There he is, the toughest bounty hunter in the galaxy. They should be making a series of this. Of course, Judge Dredd was the big star to that. But I think Strontium Dog, I always really liked, and I always felt that there should have been a TV series. You can see it imagine on Netflix or Disney Plus. No, something like that. But it should be. Or maybe not. But I loved him. Anyway, this is great as well. The Best of Sugar Jones from the pink. Now, I don't know how many other stories was in the pink one, but this was a good one. I really loved it. Pat Mills and, I can't say his name, Raphael Bosom Cluer. My apologies for saying his name completely wrong, but the artwork was absolutely superb. Really that beautiful, that sort of period, 1970s, sort of late 60s, that sort of style. I just thought this was a great one. Just suddenly thought about that Nova Jones series, a bit similar to that. Obviously not in space. So, now that would have been brilliant. They could have done Sugar Jones in space, but Nova Jones. Treasury of British Comics do seem to vary. Sometimes you get them in sort of matte, very rough paper. Then sometimes you get them like this one, sort of nice glossy paper. Very odd. They don't seem to be consistent. Also the size varies, so sometimes this one's a more medium size. Generally probably about the standard. But sometimes you get really quite thick ones, and it just does seem to go up and down. And I think there's about 2 or 3 of these so far. Now this is the first one. I haven't got any of the others. This is the Beast of Celbridge Returns. And it's great story. But there's no essays in it or any introduction or anything like that. So it would be nice to have a bit more detail about the Leopard of Lime Street, or from Lime Street, I should say. And it was from Buster. That's all I know. It was from Buster. When did it come out? Probably, they generally always say that. So 1977 to 1978, that was the period that came out. I don't think I was reading Buster at that time. I'm quite certain I wasn't. I was probably reading Marvel comics at that point. So So the stainless steel wrap. I loved the books. I loved some of these. I didn't read all of them, so it's nice to get this collection. And it's a deluxe edition, as it says. Don't know why sometimes it's a deluxe edition. To be honest, it looks much the same as a standard edition, but apparently it's a deluxe edition. Created by Harry Harrison, it says there. And great stories. But this one, of course, is a 2000 AD one. Again, sort of a mix between Treasury, British Comics, etc. Slippery Jim, as it says there, is a greatest con man of all time, no less. This is an unusual one, not particularly Treasury or British Comics, but it's sort of in my collection on that shelf. This was Covers Uncovered, and I would love to see more of these. I don't know, I think they might have done some more. I haven't seen any of these since. So the great thing about them, you've got the covers without any of the blurbs over them. You've got some sketches, and of course then you've got the original cover. I love that sort of book. I love cover books, and there's another one there. But again, I don't know if there's any more that's come out. Maybe there's a 2022 version, 2023 version at some point, I suspect. I hope they do. But again, I would love to see sort of ones for some of the old UK comics. That would be just brilliant as well, seeing some of the sketches, sort of a gallery edition sort of thing, or an artist edition of those. This one was okay, but it's obviously of a certain thing, $6 Million Man. I won't say a resemblance of Mach 1, but of course this is the British version of it. Britain's greatest hyper-powered secret agent returns. Okay, it's not exactly the same as, but it's when terrorist superweapons and other worldly forces plot destruction, the British Secret Service need John Probe, their #1 super agent, blah, 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 rooted the logic of his cybernetic brain. Okay, of course, $6 Million Man did not have a cybernetic brain. So that's really useful. But loads of other things, just great. Again, this is a glossy one, Mach 1, but it is a 2000 AD one again. It's not obviously Treasury of British Comics, but it's part of that scene. But the thing is, and I will point this out, you can see sometimes also the size changes. Why are they never consistent? I would love them to bring, and they've done this a number of times. I've got quite a few that are just slightly smaller than the others. And you think, why? Why not bring them out all the same size? It then looks like, on the shelf. People put them all on the shelf. They're all going to be nice, consistent. Then you're going to get up, down, all over the place. And again, it would be nice if they just obviously put at the top 2000 AD. Obviously, it's down there, but that's just obviously for the publishing. But it's still okay, still great. What is left there for Mach 1, as it says there. But again, it's a glossy one, which is very unusual. This is quite an unusual one. Ken Reed Years, Volume 1. So obviously, there's going to be some Volume 2, 3, 4, etc. You got the first 100 scrunges. Some really great with face ache. Great stories all the way through. Actually, quite funny. In this particular style. At the time, I never read them. I must admit, there were sort of ones that because I think it was I don't know which magazine this was. Of course, when you go and look, I can't see it. That's what I mean. It doesn't say. Doesn't put on there the magazine. Everyone's going to turn around and say, it's from blah, blah, blah. Oh, Buster and Jet. I wasn't a regular Buster and Jet reader. I mean, I was more Whizzer and Chips and loads of other ones. But Buster and Jet, I remember seeing them, but not consistently anyway. This is an odd one. This one's the Angry Planet, and it's a small thing, but this one is from Hibernia. So this is sort of the Fleetway years. It's sort of connected with Treasury of British Comics. That's why it's in that pile. But the Fleetway files. Again, this one is nice glossy paper, and you've got the stories, the Angry Planet. Quite a decent story, science fiction story, very good. And this is the first release from the Fleetway files, a new series of reprints. And what does it say? And of course, it probably says the date on the front. Yes, at least it's got an introduction. I do like an introduction to a story. This one was first in 1979. So 1979, these stories come from. Worth checking out. Hibernia have got loads of other ones as well. That quite often I see on my Facebook, they pop up. Hibernia, another book coming out, Captain Condor, etc. So many of them, I think. Maybe. Isn't this one? Leopard from Lime Street. I love this. I love it. So it's a British superhero story. British superheroes are never the world's greatest, but still, when we do create them, Leopard from Lime Street, it's good, but it's never going to match Spider-Man, is it? It's going or the Hulk. Let's be honest about it. But Leopard from Lime Street, great little story. Again, this is weirdly, it's glossy paper, sort of backwards and forwards. Really odd. But this was the crown jewel in British superhero comic strips. I suppose we should be more positive about our comics. Yes, it's a great, but it is of its style. It's definitely got its own style. And that is the one thing about, I think, compared with American comics, American superheroes is very, very different. American comics would never be like this in any shape or form. So it is good that we've got our own, even if they're a bit sort of less than superpowered. But maybe that's the charm of our ones. They are really just a kid in a sort of costume. It's not a sort of like someone's got the Infinity Gauntlet or anything stories. I could never imagine anyone, British ones, doing that. But this one, it's got, like I say, an introduction there, which is always, and again, Buster. They've done quite a few from Buster, which is quite good. Exclusive to Big Cat Who Preys on Crime. There's some other bits and pieces in there as well. I love that bit on the back. Celbridge. Is this the youngest kid in Britain? Twin Tower blocks to be demolished in November. That was, of course, the Sentinels story, I guess. It says here, page 154. So, if I go and look, probably not. This is an odd one. Black Max. Very weird stories. But it's good. World War One. I was going to say World War Two. It isn't World War One. So you got here World War One, skilled, ruthless, and master of a legion of deadly giant bats. Wouldn't have a hope against it. The artwork is absolutely superb all the way through. Really, really good story. And there is a second volume of this, Black Max. Of course, as always, most of these ones are always like just 3 pages. That was it. You get 3 pages, and then it would be another story, another 3 pages. It's true, there really is a giant bat. Now, I don't know where this was. Black Max, and of course, again, does it have what? See, again, it's not consistent, so you can't, they put Black Max there. Volume 1. Not consistent at all. And you probably notice I do love a bit of consistency when it comes to that sort of thing. Just seems like, oh, this one's with Lion and Thunder magazine. I never bought Thunder. I don't even remember Thunder comic. There were so many comics that, can't. Now, I love this one, Misty. This one's a hardback. Again, this is the consistency. It's got some are hardback, some are soft. There's no logic to it. But this one, I really love this collection. And you got here the Jordi Badia Romero collection. Really, really nice, obviously, with lots of classic. And I always wondered, did anyone ever look at these comics? I mean, adults looking at these comics, because I always think sometimes when you see some of these, you think they would just put in and everyone would. But he also had some lovely stories here, obviously a Dracula-like character. But whenever you see them, you think they put anything in sometimes. Very strange. Spitting image. Sort of unusual story there. But some truly brilliant artwork. But a lot of these could be adapted. I think this could be great for a TV series. They could have done a Misty Netflix series. I'm always choosing Netflix. Netflix is the obvious choice. Or Amazon Prime. But this one I loved. I absolutely loved this. Of course it doesn't need to be. It's in a comic book, isn't it? It's great as that. Marnie the Fox. Absolutely stunning. Now, this does deserve the special Ultimate Deluxe. Now, why didn't they put Deluxe Edition for this one? Because it deserves it. Because this is a really beautiful story as you follow this fox. And it's really touching. I absolutely loved. And again, this is a glossy one. Real nice quality story all the way. Marnie the Fox, you follow. Just beautiful. Truly beautiful artwork all the way through. I loved every single part of the story. Just glorious. And again, it's got a great introduction, again, which I always love. And where does it say in it? I can't remember what magazine. Marnie the Fox. How many stories was it? 387. Oh, including 387 instalments of Fishboy, Denizen of the Deep. Oh, that was a collaboration. Wow. And it probably sometimes it mentions at the front. Oh, here it was. Buster. Buster again. Weird. Buster was obviously the magazine comic that I should have been buying. Clearly some great stories in Buster. I think it was just the title. I don't know why. Buster. It just never really captured it for me. Then again, Whizzer and Chips. Why would that? But still, Trigan Empire. This is volume 3. I love that. The artwork was amazing all the way through. Far better than the volume 4. It was more. I found the volume 4 just a bit sort of blurrish, sort of unusual, the artwork. But this artwork in this was great. The stories are great. I just love the sort of obvious Roman Empire bit. I'm a mega fan of Roman Empire stories. Anyway, any films, DVDs, Roman Empire ones, I'm always getting those. There's, of course, Look and Learn. Actually, one thing I noticed, when you glue, I hear odd cracks when I was just opening it then. I love these stories. These are great. Tom Patterson collection. Really nice collection from Whoopi, Buster, again, Wizard and Chips, and so on. There's some colour in this one. Not all of them. Of course, sometimes in the UK comics you did have a bit of colour. It was not that many pages. Most of it, of course, was black and white. And it's a variety of different stories. You've got Full of Beans, you've got Scooper, you've got The Testing Times, Guy Gorilla, and many, many others. So it's a lovely hardback. Again, variety of different editions. Sometimes hardback, sometimes in paperback, soft cover. This is a lovely one. Tammy this time. I think this is the only Tammy one they brought out so far. Tammy in June. They haven't brought any June ones, I don't think either. But this is book 1. So hopefully at some point there will be a book 2 or book 3. Who knows? But it's a great little story. Obviously Bella tries to learn to dance. And of course has loads and loads and loads of problems put in her way as she goes to superstardom. British Comics' Greatest Heroine returns. A Misty one. This one is a Misty one. This was another one of these collections that of a particular artist. The Haume Rumu. I don't know. I'm not even going to try and say that in Spanish. It's very unusual, that. But this one's got lots of little stories here. The Black Widow. And many others as well. The Black Widow, and probably all Black Widow all the way through it. Oh, Spider-Woman. Not that Spider-Woman. Actually saying that, Spider-Woman and Black Widow. That's very strange. So that Dressed to Kill, a short story as well. Again, absolutely superb artwork, all in black and white, all the way through. But also it does include a really nice essay at the back, which is always good. 13th Floor again. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. This one, volume 3. I think that's it. Concludes the classic 80s run. Yes, that's it. So there was only 3 volumes, but I actually generally loved all of them. They're all absolutely daft. A whole load of just brilliant. 13th Floor. Of course, it moved on in many ways from that storyline. But he was still doing all the various dubious things. Lots of characters getting zapped and controlled and whatever by, sort of people would be walking past and then suddenly they would go and do various things for him. That all it ends up in this sort of place where they're suddenly they're tortured, and it was really quite pretty horrible actually in many ways. I really think that, but again, it's typical British comics back in the 80s, I guess, 70s and 80s. Very strange. I mean, look at that. The characters falling to their death. No mercy on this. This was pure, we're going to sort of torture. People will be tortured for thousands of years sort of thing. They come out, or if they ever came out, they'll be sort of old, massive, 5,000 years old sort of things, and they collapse. Probably turn into dust in front of everyone. Everyone go, oh, he only walked in there 3 minutes ago. Volume. I could never work out exactly if they were going into some other dimension kind of thing or something, or if it was just a computer simulation or something. Obviously, Trigan Empire. Again, great little stories. Absolutely, just a classic. Absolutely classic. I'm really pleased they're bringing out these collections. This is absolutely beautiful stories. These ones are from 1969, 1970s, etc. Just great. All beautiful colour all the way through. Just perfect stories. Love them. Absolutely love that collection. Now, there was a massive, big collection of Trigan Empire ones. I never bought those, but that was in hardback. And I thought about it, but I'm really pleased in many ways. This is a nicer format. I think those really big ones, though, look great and probably are more like the original size. Because these obviously clearly, they're not the size of Look and Learns. So they're obviously slightly smaller, I guess. I haven't got a Look and Learn in front of me to actually check, but it looks to me slightly different size. This one's a nice one. Again, another Jinty one. Concrete Surfer. Really good story. Again, 70s, I think, I don't know, let's look. 78. Yeah, late 70s, which is obvious. The surfer craze, of course, was starting around back then. They obviously thought, you know what, let's just put in a story about this young kid with surfing. Instead of dance or whatever, like Bella, you've got surfing instead, or whatever it's called, Concrete Surfer. Fran of the Floods. Now, this was weird. A drowned land, a schoolgirl fights for survival. They threw this Fran of the Floods. This was standard sort of comic book fare in the 70s. Great stories. You got here, no mercy sort of thing. There was sort of like really rain pouring down. But absolutely great. And even more situations that you sort of got for old Fran. No mercy, what's his name, slowing down and that sort of thing. a water world, as it says there. See there. And I think when this was, Fran Fuds, it was 1975. So 1975. And so there's so many great stories in these sort of magazines like Jinty, Tammy. So many could be reprinted. Hopefully they will over time. And here's another Jinty one, strange enough. This one is See the Human... This is the sort of stories they had. This was Land of No Tears. Whirling through time, space goes to a strange new world. And he also had this one where she was like captured on the planet of two suns. They treat girls like animals. Yeah. No, they really, really didn't hold back on some of these stories. Again, I'm quite certain the Human Zoo. So you had all the characters there. And of course, I'm not going to spoil the story. But it was actually generally really, really good. You can see on the back there, you've got the artwork. The artwork is first rate all the way through the story. But will the twins, ever be able to reunite and escape by to Earth? That didn't sound right. Anyway, Johnny Future. This one, Alf Wallace and Louis Bermejo, I guess, the complete. Now, these were in, I think it was Fantastic. I might be completely wrong. Now again, it's one of those ones, the series that I really liked. It was like The Missing Link. It was a weird story because it started one way and then it became something else. Very odd. So you had the Missing Link stories, and these were all about like 1967, 68 sort of period. Most of you're Welcome to the Future, but he became obviously Johnny Future. Suddenly it was a weird change. I be honest, I could never work out exactly why he suddenly became Johnny Future. But still, the stories were really good. He had various powers and things. And he was, unlike the Leopard one, where he was a bit more of a proper, in quotes, superhero, like the American side. It was our sort of attempt at Johnny Future. You could really sort of see the sort of... Now they could reintroduce Johnny Future. He should have a career now. Why not? Captain Britain, Johnny Future, Miracle Man, all those sort of ones. There's loads of... A lot of these ones I always wonder with, like 1940s, 1950s. They churned out loads of great stories that possibly, with a slight bit of reworking, they could make into contenders to be great British heroes, sort of. But anyway, this one is another one, a great British one. Adam Eterno, a hero for all time. Tom Tully, just great artwork, this one. And the story was just brilliant. I loved the way sort of going through time. It was just... Always enjoyed that. It was a good little yarn. And this one is Adam Turno, From the High Seas of 1770s to the Western Front in 1916 by Thunder. Now, I must have read Thunder because I did read Adam Turno, but maybe it was like in annuals or something. I don't think I read them consistently. So, but you got like great stories, great art. This one, Return to the House of Hemlock. And the potion is ready, Adam. Soon we will know if we have discovered the elixir of life, the secret of eternal youth. By the powers, he says. And, well, I think there must be a volume 2. Volume 2. I don't think this was it. But maybe it was, I don't know. But it also had an annual. There's an annual one. Obviously just a written story there, which is really good. Here's a few Misty ones. I've got this one, Misty, Moonchild and the Four Faces of Eve. And... they're very thin. These were very early ones. This one is 2000 AD online, but it is still Treasury of British Comics. But it's obviously still part of that rebellion sort of group. And again, at times glossy. But the thing is that's weird about this, of course, is obviously very similar to a certain film called Carrie, that you can't say, but it's called Moonchild. And you got this other story as well, and that's The Four Faces of Evil. Eve, even. That's a completely wrong story, isn't it? But still, Misty. I think this was number 1. And again, it doesn't number it, so I just think it's just called Misty. This one, oh yes, that was... Makes you wonder when they brought this out, because they didn't put volume 1 on it. But they did volume 2. So obviously, this one was very good. The Sentinels, sort of a weird sort of end of the line. It was in glossy, like really, really good stories. I love stories about tower blocks. I don't know why. I've never lived in a tower block. Maybe so I have no idea about tower block. But the thing was great about it was it had Nazis in it. What? I mean, that was an alternate universe. There was like people getting. So you had the Sentinels there. It was sort of a very sort of mysterious. Parallel world where the Nazis conquered Britain in the 1940s. Just great. End of the line. Of course, a story of the London Underground. Yet another classic story there. They Really crazy, some really good yarns. I love that. That was one of my favourites. The Sentinel story, brilliant. This was an odd one. Wasn't so particularly enamoured by this one. Wolf Girl one, just called Wolf Girl. This is volume 3. And again, it's got a bit of colour, not much. Weirdly, you've got one like that colour there. I think the other story, the rest of it is in black and white. But I guess it was probably the last page. Maybe they put that on the end of the comic, so it would be in colour. So you've got that story there. Very faded colour. So it looks the way they've done it is obviously from a comic. But it's also got an essay at the back. Well, not essay. It's got a poem in the back. It's got a poem. And also it's got it's got a text story as well, which is always good. And some more colour pages. But this is Misty Volume 3. Not my favourite of that one, but I'm certain there must be more classic Misty stories. They could bring out a Volume 4 or 5, etc. Oh, here's another Hibernia one. The Indestructible Man. That was good. Really enjoyable story. Obviously Egyptian there. And same character. He's the same person. This one's in glossy. And this, I say, Hibernia. Not Treasury of British Comics. The Fleetway files there. Really worth checking out. Check out their... Also, they've got a Facebook section, so check that out. I assume they've got a website. I can't remember now if they've got... But they've certainly got a Facebook section. So, there's the details. They're the second release in the Fleetway files. Here's another Trigan Empire, and this one is Volume 1. I mean, these are real thick, chunky volumes. They actually weigh a ton, actually. They are really heavy duty. I mean, real nice quality paper. It's also got a nice introduction, which is always good. And, of course, it's all in colour all the way through. Just absolutely superb stories. And probably more so than any of the other ones, felt more like the Roman sort of stories than others. But it was good. Thoroughly enjoyable. I loved every part of it. Absolutely brilliant. So that's that. Oh, 13th floor. And which one's this one? This is volume 1. So this is volume 1 of 13th floor. Now, this was when it was actually the 13th floor. Obviously, the story, there was like, I think 12th floor for this building. And there wasn't a 13th floor, but somehow, of course, there is a 13th floor. And this is the 13th floor. Well, of course, has this computer on, as you would have, of course, have a computer. But literally, anyone that seems to get in touch or contact with him ends up being zapped in some horrible ways. Really, really bad. They go off in a sort of changed person afterwards. Not all of them die, but some. Most of the characters, they seem to meet very gruesome, as far as I can see. Horrible ends. You've got sort of like... They were not messing around with some of these books. These were like equivalent of something like House... Probably far harder, worse than the House of Mystery and the sort of House of Secrets that were around in the States. These were really sort of no holds barred kind of thing. And finally, Billy's Boots. I love these ones. Absolutely crackingly good stories. They were daft, absolutely daft. From the pages of Scorcher, I read every single one of them. Unfortunately, the stories continued on forever and ever elsewhere. I think there was thousands of stories, so I suspect at no point will we get a volume. Now, I don't think this is actually... Oh, it says volume 1. I haven't seen, and maybe there is, someone might turn around and say in the comments, there is volume 2, and I will go and buy it if there is. But volume 1, hopefully there will be a volume 2. It's hardback again. But it was great. I love these stories, even though it's got some colour, this one. It was slight crack there as well. But it was just great. He found these boots, and of course there's a diary or something. He always quickly... Oh, actually, it's all in colour, this one. That's weird. I don't know why I suddenly had vision. That is, I suppose because it was on the front. I guess that was, yeah. You got Billy's Boots. Or it was on... Was it in the middle? It must have been in the middle then, Billy's Boots. Because they wouldn't, unless they put colour pages elsewhere, I guess. I don't know. I haven't got any original Scorchers now. It was a long time ago. I can't remember where they were. I was surprised, actually, just so I was... Because I've been talking about all of them in black and white. This one, for some weird reason, is all in colour, which is fine. But they were great stories anyway. That was the key thing. You always had problems with them. The boots would be thrown away, or they would end up sort of... Someone would steal them, then someone would replace them with newer boots because, oh, you know what? For your Christmas present, I've got some new boots and I've thrown your other ones out and everything else. Or the teacher would keep them behind and then they would... And so on. They got waterlogged or he would... The dark something. There was a whole heaps of things he would, and then he would find out a little bit about some more about the story about Deadshot. I loved them. As I said, I love football. It was just absolutely great. I always imagined finding those boots would have been just something. I think every kid who read this must have loved this sort of, and of course it got the bad side of the manager. You've always got to have that story as well. The manager's got to go, and of course then you go and win the FA Cup or the World Cup story, though he never did. I don't know if Deadshot ever did either, but maybe he did. Maybe that's the thing. I think Deadshot won the World Cup 50 times or something. Probably would have read that in the diary. That was the thing that always amused me with the diary. He always read it at that point when it was happening, which was odd. Why didn't he just read like loads of pages of the diary? Didn't he read ahead and think, oh, you know what, I'm going to win the World Cup at some point? That would spoil the story, wouldn't it? But then, of course, he does various things. He always be able to do the most amazing tricks. And then, of course, he'd get a duff pair of boots or something. Of course, he couldn't do anything. I always felt that was a missed opportunity. That though maybe they did do a story where he got a different pair of boots and he still could play amazing because he was genuinely a good footballer and didn't need just the boots. Maybe they did that storyline. I don't know. That would have been obviously a much nicer way of finishing the series off, possibly. But I love lots of these books, and I hope that Treasury of British Comics and Rebellion keep bringing out many, many more, because there's so many zillions of comics from the 60s and 70s that just have not been reprinted. You know, and there was some great stuff. There's some pretty dire stuff as well, of course. There's lots of mediocre stuff that just... But it's still, I hope, at some point, lots of these things. I always imagined that they would bring, and if this was the States, of course, they probably would. You get Essentials or something like Essentials, 500-page, sort of massive phone directory ones. And we'd like have thousands of these volumes of all these old comics. I suspect that most will never see, unfortunately, I will never see reprinted. Which, of course, luckily, the original comics are still generally available. You can still find these, like 30th Century Comics, of course, is a classic place to find lots of old, wonderful 60s and 70s comics. And, of course, comic marts occasionally. Not as many. I always find disappointing that comic marts they don't have many of these either. You go to comic marts, you very rarely see any of these collections of Treasury of British Comics. So, also, old British comics. Years ago, used to have quite a pile. And then now, I never see them. Very rarely. Very few, anyway. Anyway, I hope you found this of interest, and I'll be doing some more bookshelf tours in the next couple of days. Bye.